Welcome, everybody. Welcome to this edition of LA Times. Today, we have a very special guest with us. And Robert, I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
All right. So, hello, everybody. Like you said, my name is Robert, but I'm also known as Big D. And appreciate you guys having me on board. I appreciate you, Joe and Paul, for having me on.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And then we have Big Paul. Big Paul, man, the man of the hour right there. And, hey, Paul, just thank you for having us on here. And we want to thank you for, you got we love that aquarium. But how's Nemo doing back there?
Good, bro. Trello Trucker hates them, but it's okay.
Yeah. No, that's just the haters are gonna hate, man. Haters are gonna hate. Thank you everybody for joining us. We're gonna have a very special interview today. And before we get started, give us the like, give us the thumbs up, subscribe, pass us on, pass the wire to your friends, your family, your co-workers, the comadres down the street, the people I work at Starbucks and over there at Cadenas Market. Tell them about us. Get everybody on board. We really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch us and to help promote us. And today, I just want to get started with the story with Robert. The way we get started today, I'm going to ask you, where were you raised?
I was born and raised in the city of Boyle Heights.
Órale, órale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was born in White Memorial Hospital, right there on Cesar Chavez. But I don't know if you guys used to call Brooklyn Avenue. So yeah, the city of Boyle Heights, between I think it's between Cesar Chavez and State Street.
Okay. Were you a part of any barrios from over there?
No, I actually grew up, like I said, at that time when I was growing up, because I'm in my mid 40s. So growing up at that time, I was born in '76. So in the '80s, you know, what I mean, if you know back then, there was not too many big cliques out there. I remember growing up, it was we were in between Hazard and Primera Flats. And then after at that time, growing up, I remember my uncle, you know what I mean? They would go out there and they started up like a football club and they became a clique. It was called, and then they ended up being State Street Locals. I don't know if you guys ever heard of them.
Yeah. So you never clicked up with any barrio from out there?
No, I was too young. I was too young. I was still, like I said, I was born in '76, and I seen everything. I seen a lot of stuff, being right there, as my uncle was transitioning from a teen to a young man. He was the one that was being the role model, the example. He was the one that was part of the clica. And then after, it's funny because we used to live right across the street from the park. So, lo and behold, that's where a lot of activities at. If you go to the park, it's like there's a playground, as they say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So growing up, like I said, I don't know if you guys even recalled or remember back in the days, PCP was very came into the scene at that time, and me growing up, that was the big drug at that time. In my time in the '90s, because I did the '90s, methamphetamine was in. I don't know if you guys recall that, but at that time, when I was in the '80s, PCP was the one that was going out, and my uncle was a part of that transition, and doing all the slanging and the dealing. So it was like live TV right in front of the house. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah. We definitely remember super cools, dippers, frios. Yeah,
10
definitely.
spots, 100 pours, 10 pours. It was crazy because I mentioned this a while back, and I would tell people like, man, I remember I used to go in front of my grandmother's house, right in front of the house and stuff like that. And my uncle, like I said, since we used to live right across the street from the park, and, he had a privilege, to come and hide, the drugs inside the house or in the front lawn, in the front yard. So me and my cousins, we would get them and stuff like that, and we would sell them to his homies. And like, oh man, like, let me get $10. Like, we'll get 100 pour and stuff like that. My uncle be like, hey man, did you guys get this? You guys get that? Like, no, we don't know what you're talking about. But we, 100 pour, we get $10 from them. But you got to remember, back in the '80s, man, $10 was like $100.
Yeah, definitely. And that's
Right?
the
You could buy a soda for 50 cents and chips and all that less than $1.
yeah. I remember I used to go buy my dad cigarettes, 75 cents a pack, and they would sell to us as kids. You know what I mean? Because they're the neighborhood stores they knew us. But
You know,
I remember like those that PCP, the frios. man, that stuff's strong, man. Like I never, ever, ever smoked it. All my homeboys did, and they would get super cooled out, and they'd be like zombies, and because that stuff had embalming fluid in it, so they'd be like
Yes,
stuck
sir.
right there. You know what I mean? Just standing there like a tree. And but I never, never tried it, man. Never. I just didn't want to get to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
and,
was,
and that was the crazy part because, like I said, being young and growing up in that type of environment, that's the stuff that we saw. So we started from my early '80s to the mid '80s. I started seeing a transition, and I started seeing that now that area was considered like a dope area because, like I said, all we had to do was just sit in front of the our porch and you could see all the transactions happening left and right. People would come, people would go. I mean, I remember the feds came one time, they cracked down, the police will be out there, real hot. And it wasn't like that, I mean, as I got older, like 6, 7, 8, 9, you start seeing the transition. But before like 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, when I was young, I remember like back in the days, they used to have carnivals at the park. I don't know if you remember that. They used to have gatherings. We had the baseball. I mean, it'll be local. Your daily, community life. And then after State Street, because State Street was, from my understanding, was like a football club. And then after, lo and behold, these guys, just like many other neighborhoods, they just got together and made a clica. And from there, they took off. I don't know how they got involved with the drug trade, but I remember, like, man, it was really, really bad right there.
yeah, yeah. Let's rewind a little bit. Let's go back to so you were raised right there in Boyle Heights, right? And at a certain point you left that area. What age were you?
Yes, sir.
Where did you go to school and stuff like that?
Okay, so I went to Bridge Elementary. If many people will know, in that little area, it's not too far from State Park. I remember walking to the, getting up in the morning. I don't know if you remember, we used to watch. They used to have cartoons in the morning, and and then I walked to school and then come back and watch cartoons after school. I mean, they don't do that anymore. It's just they took a lot of that away. But and then from there, like I said, I grew up, and then what happened was that, unfortunately, after so many years, my grandmother and my grandfather, they got a divorce. So, my grandmother had her mother living in Whittier. So we used to commute back and forth. I knew my great grandmother real good. We used to have parties over there, gatherings like Easter and 4th of July, certain things. So, I was familiar with the Whittier area. And then what happened was, like I said, after my grandmother got a divorce from my grandfather, unfortunately, she wanted to be closer to her mom because my great grandmother had cancer at that time. So we ended up going over there. They sold the house. Everybody got broken off. And, my grandma and them, they bought another house in Whittier. And then my aunt moved over there. And so, my mom at that time, I was going through a transition with my mother. She was fighting her spiritual aspect back then. So, to make a long story short, she ended up moving up north, and I ended up staying with one of my aunts, and that's how I got involved with the area right there.
Oh, okay, okay. So you wanted to be,
Yeah,
yeah, staying in Whittier then.
yeah, yeah. Why? What I really didn't want, I didn't want to go up north,
Yeah,
because we went a few times, or my mom and them, they had good friends, good spiritual people in the city of Selma. I don't know if you ever heard of that. It's like 20 minutes away from Fresno. So my mom ended up moving to a city called Sanger. It's right next door to Selma, and that's more like a Sureño city. So my mom, they would try to not persuade me and stuff like that. We were just accustomed to like LA, bro. Like, we had we're dressed with the blue, we had the white shirts. We were not cholos, but we were not gangsters. But during that time, I even went through a phase where, like, I was into graffiti. So, I don't know if you remember the tagging area and stuff like that. So, after my young teens, when I was 12, 13 years old, we would be taggers. And then after, so a lot of times we would go to see ministers, and my mother and then will have spiritual people, where we had to go up there up north and like hang out for the summer and stuff like that. And that's how we found ourselves like, wow, man, this is like, where are we at, man? It's all farms over here and stuff like that. And then after, like, the people that were there, they have children, that are our age and stuff like that. And, they were involved in some type of way, and like, hey, well, we're the norteños, and like, we're like, what? We never even heard of that, we're
yeah,
red over here. And we're like, wow, we're like, man, I just know Dodger blue, and that's it.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how
So
was
it was
yeah.
Go ahead, go ahead.
No, I said, how was your high school experience?
My high school, unfortunately, like I said, so when I went to high school, I was living at Whittier in that time. And what happened was that my aunt, like I said, she ended up moving out after. She ended up moving over there. So I had to make a decision. I told my aunt, well, let me stay here at your house. You know, I mean, let me go to school from here. I was transitioning. And where she ended up moving up north with my mom and them, because you know, that was supposed to be the deal. A lot of them were supposed to go up there. And what happened was that when she moved, my grandmother, like I said, still local in the area, and my other aunt, she ended up staying in Baldwin Park. So my grandmother ended up moving to Baldwin Park. Like I kind of been like here, there, you know, like in certain places, you know, I was just always moving. So I ended up in Baldwin Park, and then after I was still in, but I would leave Baldwin Park and still be affiliated. Now I was not in my neighborhood yet at that time. I just had good friends in Whittier, and I was already like 15, 16 years old. I was already on the streets. So I would go to school because I was going to school when I was living with my aunt in Whittier. So I was trying to use that as a leverage, like, hey, like I'm involved in school, I can't leave, so I'm gonna stay with the homie right here, you know. So I was going to school, high school from right there from my homie's pad, but that didn't last long.
Yeah, yeah. Was it a
Yeah.
tough high school experience or no?
Say again.
Was it a tough high school experience?
Well, what happened was I went to continuation. You know, when my mom was still living here, and I tried to go to high school, but I didn't have enough credits. So they put me in continuation. It's right there on Frontier, and in between like Southside Whittier, there's a continuation called Frontier. And I was going to Pioneer High School, and they say I didn't have enough credits, so I had to go make up my credits at Frontier. So I went to Frontier, and I was over there, and then I was out there hanging around, gang banging. At that time, I already caught myself was involved, and I got jumped in. I remember one day we were coming from Frontier, and I was in a tough situation. In life sometimes as a youngster, the decisions we have to make sometimes, they're not the right ones because I didn't have really the full guidance. And plus I was being rebellious. I didn't want to go stay with my mom. I was making some bad decisions. I had really nobody counseling me. I didn't have my father. So I ended up, lo and behold, I got jumped in the neighborhood.
What neighborhood was that?
It's Quiet Village in Whittier. And ended up being right there. The neighborhoods, it covers a lot of territory, but it's mainly known from Whittier Boulevard and Norwalk. Those are the main cross streets.
So what age did you get jumped in?
I was like in my late 15 or early 16 years old, if I recall. So I was like already in my latter years of my teenager years. And then after, so I ended up getting jumped in, and, things went crazy after that.
Yeah. So what made you decide that, I want to get jumped into the barrio. I want to start banging?
Well, the thing was a lot of pressure. My circumstances and the way I was living. I was going to go up north and subside with my mom and make my peace with her, or I was going to be rebellious and just continue and just make my own decision and just stay on the streets. So lo and behold, I made a rebellious decision. I was being stubborn, and I ended up in the streets, which I didn't really want to be either. But at that time, my mom, after so many years, she got married, and I had other siblings, half brothers, half sisters. So I saw her going in a different direction, and I found myself not knowing that I thought was like the black sheep. I was like, okay, she started life, so I started, feeling that type of way. And I made my decision, and like, hey, man, you know what? They can move on with their life, and I'm going to move on with mine. And lo and behold, I didn't really want to get in the neighborhood either. It was just like, man, one day, like I said, we're coming from school. We had an altercation even that day. And then after I seen one of my homies that I used to play football with, before we used to be, I don't know if a lot of times before you get into a gang, you're rather from a tagging crew or a football club, or, a bunch of boys just in the neighborhood. We just do things, you're learning how to smoke a cigarette, learning how to drink beer, you're learning how to smoke a joint. And that's barely the stages that we're at. And then we were good friends because I remember my aunt and my grandma, they had a house right in the neighborhood at that time. So lo and behold, next thing you know, you get accustomed to the area and you make friends. And I made friends with a couple of guys, and next thing you know, these two guys, they got jumped in, and they came after us, and they were locals. They were like, hey, you guys can't be a football team or tag right here. You guys got to get jumped into the bottom. I'm like, wait, hold on. I'm not even from the area. I grew up in Boyle Heights, East LA. And at that time, lo and behold, the streets don't really care, man. The streets will accept you. And next thing you know, I found myself getting jumped in that one day, and I was just like, wow, okay, here we go.
Yeah, the streets, they accept you. They swallow you up, man. They swallow you up and they spit you out at the end. Yeah, man. Yeah,
Exactly,
we all know that, man. And
exactly.
so when you joined the gang, like after you got jumped in, did you feel like more part of a family? Did you feel like, or did you feel more powerful? Did you feel like what changed in you the day you got jumped in?
Right. Well, Joe, I'll say it like this. I was looking for acceptance, and you're right. I was confused at that time. I was at distraught. I was battling the yeses and the nos. But after I got jumped in, I did feel part of how the people would say the family. You're right, and I felt part of the clica. They gave me a name, and from there I ran with it. And I was just like, okay, so now this is a new chapter in my life, and now I got to fulfill and stand up to meet up to the standards. That's what it is. And I seen it happen when I was growing up right there at State Park. So I guess I thought this was the way that, okay, my life's gonna have to be. And I ended up being that person. I was very upset that day. I remember I was mad. And it's funny how, the homies name you and they're like, oh, you look all mad and everything. We're going to call you Demon. And I was just like, all right, no, whatever. And my mom, and I came from a spiritual background because my mom got saved after I was 10 years old. It took her a while. And she's like, oh, man, out of all the names they had to give you, why did they give you Demon? So when you're out on the streets, you already know, Joe, you have to become the streets. And it's like, hey, man, if you have that, it's like somebody calls you, well, they're going to call you Trigger. Well, guess what? They want you to go and they want you to blast somebody every day. Or they call you Boxer, you know what I mean? Well, you're going to have to be fighting every day. You have to live up to those expectations. And it's just like, okay, well, you're going to call you Demon. Well, I'm going to be that chamuco out there. I'm going to be dirty, evil, everything I could be.
Yeah, like when I grew up, everybody got their names because they had a certain trait. Or like me, I was always joking around, so they called me Joker.
All right.
Everybody got it because it was something they did or something like that, and then that's how they got their name.
Interesting, crazy.
So what kind of background? Just like real, go ahead. Paul.
No, I was gonna say, tell us about the gangs in Whittier and who were you guys beefing with? I know is Southside Whittier the biggest, and is
at that time
there, and who are you beefing with?
At that time, like Paul, every decade is different, right? The Bible talks about generations. You know what I mean? When I got jumped into the 90s, we just became like the biggest clique at that time in the 90s when I was there. So, but knowing the history, Jimtown is the oldest gang in Whittier. I don't know if you guys heard of Jimtown. And from my understanding, don't quote me on this, but this is what I heard. Actually, gangs expand from other cliques. You know that, right? When they might have one gang and they don't want to subside with and being comprehensive with the neighbors, so they'll go across the street off that clique and we're gonna start our own barrio. So I heard that we were kind of like a descendant, like a branch off of Jimtown, and then they started off our own clique, and our neighborhood's been around, from my understanding, early 40s. You know what I mean? Late 50s or early 50s, late 40s. So that was if Jimtown's we're right on Whittier Boulevard, and Jimtown is across the street, and then we're on the opposite side. So those were like our arch enemies, man. It was bad blood, It's just when you're growing up and you become a clique, you always have a rival in something, whatever you do. So yeah, Jimtown was the clique back then. I think in our early 90s, I'm not trying to say that we were the best, because everybody's going to say that we were the toughest, we were the craziest, man. It just takes one person, man. If one person goes out there, Paul, and he's doing the dirty work, man, your neighborhood will get glorified for that. So, but at that time, I could honestly say in the early 90s, mid 90s, late 90s, man, we were the guys that were out there. There wouldn't be like 2 or 3 of us, man. There would be like 15 of us on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, like any day of the week, that we were out there just doing our business, and people will come and go. You get busted, you get released, you catch a case, and people were still coming up to us because we had, it's funny because every gang, has the same motive, is to cause havoc and try to be the best gang they're out there. But every gang actually is different. We have a lot of respect we had a lot of morals. We were like pretty much involved with the community. You know, if something was happening, as the cops were chasing us, the ghetto bird was on it, man. People would come and open their doors and, hey, you guys could hide in here, and you guys could do this. They would feed us. They would let us sleep in their porch, in their yard, because we knew we had nowhere to go. And they see us sleeping in the grass. I remember one day, you know, we had nowhere to go. We're just all burned out, and we were sleeping in the grass. And the people woke up and they gave us breakfast and stuff like that. I was like, wow, you know, okay, you know, hey, here's some food. You guys got to get out of here. You guys got to keep it moving. So, man, we were pretty crazy, man. It was pretty crazy, you know. And I try to tell people, man, like, you know, I don't glorify gangs. You know, I want to say against it. I just say that, hey, man, there's better things, there's better choices that you could do. If I put in so many years in there, and I seen a lot of things, you know, being a gang member. I don't know, Joe and Paul, if you guys could testify, you know, like 75% of it, it's hard times. You know, you get your good 20% in there when you have your gatherings on the weekends, and you're drinking your pisto and you're doing your drogas. But what happened when Monday comes and Tuesday comes and everybody goes home or goes to work or goes to school and you're still out there? And it's just like, man, you know what I mean? You're suffering and you're going through all this hardship and this turmoil. And you're like, man, something's wrong right here. You know, it's not right, but you're so deceived. You know what I mean? You're so into it. And it's just like, man, you know what I mean? You have to follow through. You have to follow suit, as they say. And then that's where it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, you gotta stay on track, and it's a hard one, man. It is, it really is. Like being out there, what would you say was the most craziest thing you went through being out there that you can talk about?
Being shot. You know, I got shot 3 times, man. I seen the gun, like literally, like I seen the sparks of the gun, just boom. You know, you could feel, you could feel the shock wave. You know what I mean? Huh?
Yeah.
When the gun goes off, yeah, I mean, you could feel it. You could feel the spark, and like being shot was probably like the craziest, because that's the last thing you think you're gonna do when you get out there. It's like, you know, when you're in gangs, you know what I mean? There's, you know, it's you could die, literally. You know, they don't tell you that when you sign up, you know, to be a gang member. But, you know, you realize it real quick, you know, when the first time you get, you know, blasted on, you know what I mean? Then you know that, hey, this ain't no joke. You know, these guys are playing for keeps.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So you got shot 3 times, and so you still like have PTSD from that and stuff.
There's a lot of things that I have PTSD. I think I have for, like, you know what I mean? I remember, like, so here's an incident, right? I can't sleep at night, you know, sometimes because, you know, I remember, like, when I was young, you know, not a lot of the homies were tweaking. You know, we were just, you know, a lot of older homies were against that. Like, hey, you guys got to be soldiers. You guys be on your toes. So we were sleeping like in abandoned pads, or, like, you know what I mean, abandoned places. And then after, next thing you know, it'll be 5 of us. We'll find an abandoned house, right? And then after, you know, we'll sleep in there, and some homies are tweaking. And you're in the middle of your sleep. It's like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And next thing you know, like, the homies are running through their house, like, hey, the cops are coming, the cops are coming. So you get in the middle, you know, your sleep's interrupted, and you're running out, and you're just like, man, you know, to wake up to find somebody that somebody's chasing you, it's just like, oh my God, like, this ain't no joke. And this happened for years. And then, so now, like, my wife, she's like, I go, man, I can't sleep at night. I can't sleep at night. And she's all like, why? Because, you know, it was a cause and effect that was in my life. And I try to explain that to her, but I don't think she would ever understand, because unless you go through certain circumstances and situations, or been there or done that, you'll never understand, you know?
Yeah, it's hard to explain things, y'all, if you can't live through it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, you know what I mean. You know, I thank God that, you know what I mean. I gave it. You have to get, to me. I gave things all to God, and I'm still working on it. Like, just on this, I'm a work in progress, and I see things that God has healed me in a lot of areas, because a lot of times I surrendered. You know what God has done for me, and, you know, you have to get. You know, God says you got to let it go. You got to release it. And, you know, and it's just like, you know, I seen the guy you had on the last time from TMC. He says he has nightmares and stuff like that, you know. And but I think in his life, you know, he needs to fast and pray a little bit more and just let it go. Because if we think about and carry it, the enemy is always going to be right there and just say, you know, that he's torturing us, and, you know, but he has to fast and really pray hard and tell God, like, man, you know, and I believe that God, and since that time, you know, I pray for the brother, you know, and it's just like, hey, you know, the prayer is everything. It's vital. Man, I remember on the streets I was praying, man. You know, I was like, oh Lord, help me through this one. Oh Lord, help me through this. Help me through this. But then again, you know, I got to be demon and stuff like that. So there's a lot of PTSD, a lot of stuff that people don't realize. You know, we were soldiers out there. Let's just be honest. You know, just the way the soldiers say, hey, they come back with war wounds and stuff like that, man. Guess what? I was a soldier too, but in the streets.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Yeah, like from Afghanistan or Iraq to being out here in East Los or Orange County or wherever you're at, like back, especially back in the 80s and 90s, man, you're out there full You know what I mean? You're going to hand-to-hand combat. You're going, ducking bullets being shot all around you, seeing your homies fall next to you, and the same thing. The same thing. The only difference is we don't get benefits. Oh yeah, hey, this vato, he's a veterano. He's a veterano from the neighborhood. But like the veterans that go to the Marines and stuff like that, they come back and they have benefits. We don't have no benefits, dog. You know what I
Right,
mean?
and that's something, Joe, that we should be preaching on. It's like, man, like I try to tell the youngsters, I see them over there, man. If you want to get paid for something, you guys don't belong right here. You know, things are totally different where they were from the 80s and 90s. You know, go educate yourself. You know, go join the military. You'll get paid for it. You'll get benefits, like you said. And I want to jump into another subject right now that's really also vital. You know, I don't want to skip or go forward or backward, but since we're talking, I want to elaborate. It's just education. Educate yourself. You know what I mean? Lo and behold, I had a chance to go to college and you know what I mean, experience and maybe I was going even for my AA. It may not be big for the world right here, but since a guy that never graduated and I don't have a diploma, that's like a freaking bachelor degree to me. You know, it means a lot, because of the things that I had to go through, the discipline that and making that change. It's just like, it's pretty sad because the raza needs to be more educated. I don't mean to go on another subject, Joe, but I see like, we talk about we talk about unity, and we talk about like, who's going to stand up for us and this and that. Well, man, if we don't educate our youngsters to go to school, who's going to represent us? You know what I mean? The people who are representing us now is me, you, through our tragedy, our trauma, what we've been through, our scars and our pain. And we're trying to tell the kids, like, don't do that. Go educate yourself, go to school, like learn something. Like for one thing, okay, I don't mean to disappoint, or I hope I don't hurt anybody or be off topic or anything. But we have a lot of like upcoming, the Rasta's coming up. We're the minority. Let's be honest, And one thing why don't we talk about, our history? For one thing, let's just say, now I'm not talking about Zapata and Pancho Villa. I'm talking about like that. I don't see rappers or people making movies. Let's just say, for instance, because I took Chicano Studies 1 and 2. How come we're not talking about the Braceros program? You know what I mean? When they came in, you know what I mean? If it wasn't for the Mexican, the Chicano public, when World War II was happening, who was going to feed these countries? Who was going to feed the military and stuff like that? Why can't there be a rap song about that? Why can't we do a movie about the Braceros program? Why can't we, educate our youth and say, hey, you know what, the Raza, we've been hardworking. We went through the same process when they were coming in and irritation and stuff like that. They were mocking us, looking at us. You know what I mean? We had to get sprayed. We had to do this. We've been through a lot of torture and trauma too, just like any other race has to. It's not, but one thing is that we're not teaching our kids to go to school. We're not teaching say like, hey, go instead of going to UCLA right here, stay away from your mom and your dad. Go to the University of Arkansas. Go to the University of over here. Learn how to live by yourself and be dependent. I mean, that's my thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. And your AA, man, congratulations, dog. I mean, I'm proud of you because the associate.
Appreciate that. I appreciate
that. Associate degree, that's big, dog. That's big, and
it is.
And that's that's a milestone for you to do, and that's a lot of hard work, dog. That's a lot of hard work. So
it was, what I mean, because I really didn't know my 3+2s and my 2+1s and stuff like that. I mean, I'm making a joke out of it because I know my addition stuff like that. But when it comes to fractions, I struggled a little bit. But you know what? It was hard for me, ex-gang member, to go there and tell them like, hey, well, can you teach me? Because I'm not used to asking for help. You know what I mean? The Raza, they instead of asking for help, we go out and we just look for something else. You know what I mean? And whether it's drugs or something else, it's just nobody's infiltrating the, they saying like, hey, it's okay to go do that, and that's what I'm trying to reach out, and I go to school and I tell the youngsters like, hey, go educate yourself, man. You don't have to do this. It's okay for ask for help. It's okay. One way or another, we could all relate, and it's just like, but unless you extend and ask for the help, you get help. The Bible says you have not because you ask not, bro.
Yeah, definitely. He did a great thing. Just like Paul there. Paul went and he got some college in too, and went to film school, and he has a lot of accomplishments also, and
that's good, man. But now we got to push that though, you know what I mean? Hey, go get it. We need more people, like we need senators and we need Raza, you know what I mean, to get to that White House, and they can start making laws and things for us. So it's like, I even think it's just like, trip out on this, Joe, Paul, right? So we know that they have only black colleges, right? Like Gambling Green, do we have one for Mexicans or Chicanos or Latinos, or Mexicano college and stuff like that? I haven't heard of one, unless you guys could tell me one, like, pick me up on game.
I don't know.
right? So it's just like, you know what I mean? We're left behind already, and we've been left behind since World War II. Ever since Texas was separated from Mexico and stuff like that, the United States has left Mexico behind, bro. And you know what I mean? That's another thing I could talk about too, how I
Hold
see
on there.
things in.
Let's hold on there, because I think most of the people were following your story, you know?
Okay,
We
all right.
can get back to that stuff, but one thing I wanted to share before we go on, Joe brought up a great point about PTSD. And I just want to say, if any of you out there struggling and sleeping or been shot before, me and Joe have a friend named David Contreras. I'm going to put his link down there. He specializes in dealing with that. He's a Christian. He believes in prayer. And so his link will be down there. Take it away, Joe. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. You're absolutely right about that. Yeah. So let's talk about okay, so then you got shot. Then what happened after that? Like what in the gang life, what happened to you after you got shot?
Well, after I got shot the first time, Joe, I thought I was invincible, man. You know what I mean? Hey, you know what's crazy? Okay, so I got shot, right? And you're supposed to go recover and rest and heal, right? So obviously, you know, at a young age getting shot, I was being stubborn. And I remember they cast me up, you know, my mom thought, you know, I got killed and stuff like that. And she was like, wow. So I ended up being back in the neighborhood gang banging with the cast on, you know, literally, because that's at that time I was in my prime. You know, so I was just like, man, you know what I mean? I ain't going nowhere. You know, I felt invincible. You know, the homies, they tell you like, oh man, you're down, you're good. And so, you know, like lo and behold, I found myself in the neighborhood right there and still gangbanging, not learning my lesson yet because I thought I got shot in my leg. I didn't get killed. Now I thought I was like, you know, you start being more accustomed, you know what I mean, to the violence. You're getting used to the transitions of the animosity, the anger, and everything the street that has to offer. And at that time, I was ready to go all the way.
Yeah, yeah. That's yeah, I totally agree with you on that one, man. That's something you just felt like a celebrity, huh?
I found celebrity, man. It was just like, you know, I was like, wow, you know, they're like, man, like, okay, it's like combat, you know, soldiers, you know what I mean? They come and you know what I mean? They brace you and they tell you, man, you're putting down for the neighbor. You took one for the barrio, you know what I mean? And I was just like, yeah, I did, huh? I was like, okay, yeah. So now I found myself out there showing that I'm still being a soldier, cast up and everything, being negligent and arrogant about it, and, you know, and still thinking that I'm out there. I remember, you know, I remember one time I was out there and it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. And, you know, the homies are like, hey, you know, we're going to blast on these fools right now. And I was just like, oh, man, are you kidding me? And they're like, hey, Big D, start running, start taking off. You're on your crutches. Go, 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 go. And I was like, gone already. The next thing you know, I just hear boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, damn. And I'm trying to get to where the safe spot's at. And these guys are running past me. And I was like, oh, my God, I got to go faster, faster, faster. It's like comedy at the same time. It was like a joke. It's like a movie. I was just like, wow, this is pretty crazy.
So then what was your next step from there after that incident?
So my next step from there, like I said, I was getting older. Excuse me real quick. I'm trying to get to somewhere a little bit more lighting.
Yeah.
Sorry, but hold on. Sorry, guys. I'm going from room to room. Okay, sorry about that.
We're gonna tour your house today.
Yeah, a tour of my house. I go through one room through another. But sorry about that. Like I said, I found myself, like I said, I got shot like I was like 19 my first time. And then after that, it still became a cycle. I wasn't ready to, you know, put things down and learn from you know how they say, oh, you learn from your lessons. And I didn't learn from my lesson. I just, you know, that situation was still there. I had more bitterness in my heart. I had a lot of more anger, more unforgiveness. So like, you know, they say like, you know, you learn from your lesson, but I wasn't because I felt like I still had nowhere to go. I still felt like, you know what I mean? I was, you know what I mean? A black sheep to the family. You know, the enemy was just straight lying to me, the devil, you know? So I thought I had to keep up. So I ended up, you know, I still stayed in the neighborhoods another couple of years and stuff like that. And I think what really was crazy that happened was my cousin ended up getting killed and my best friend. Yeah. Yeah, my cousin, you know, I felt a lot of accountability for that. I felt responsible, you know what I mean? Because my cousin was only 16 and, you know, he got shot 19 times. You know, they laid him out. And my best friend, they shot him like 15 times. So I felt more drawn in, like now it got really serious. Now you got to go do this. Now you have to go back and put punishment on other families and not realizing that, what I mean, I'm doing the same cycle. I mean, I'm going out there, I'm not helping the community, I'm not investing in the community, I'm being a bad person to the community. I'm over here hurting other families now. I'm showing the display, I'm being part of the problem, I'm not being part of the solution. But that thing, like you said, the PTSD, the nightmares, the unforgiveness, the devil had me. Once my cousin got killed, I was just like, man, this is my fault. I felt like it was my fault, and it took me a long time, Joe and Paul, to really just like, hey, man, it's not your fault. Like up to this day, I still feel the accountability nights, but I release it to the Lord.
Like you feel like because you were part of the barrio at that time, because you're one of the soldiers, you felt like you're part of the, like it was your fault because you're still out there doing your thing. So it kept the neighborhood going. So you felt like because of that, it was your fault, right? Because
Yeah,
that
and not only that,
I felt that before. I felt like that before. I felt like we lost a homie, and I'm like, man, maybe if we weren't all out here, maybe he'd still be alive. You know what I mean? If we didn't keep the audio going, and so, but make you
you
realize that.
got you got to remember Paul and Joe too. That was my cousin. He was blood. That's what made it harder.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Did they die at the same time or no?
At the
Separate.
same time, it was a double homicide.
Oh man. Yeah. That
Yeah,
was. That's a lot of bullets.
yeah, yeah. And after that, Joe and Paul, I just went berserk. I took the name to another level. Like I said, it's unfortunate because I mean, I had to go out to the community and cause more havoc, and not realizing that I might go hurt other families and do the same thing that's happened to me. Try to put that hurt. What I mean? And it's just sad. Because it's a cycle. What I mean? We're all here killing each other. We're out here. What I mean? Destroying each other. And it's just like, man, it's just like, why are we doing that? I remember like back in the days, the whole purpose of a gang back in the days, the Pachucos, was we're supposed to help each other and protect each other. What happened after that? Now, then next thing you know, we started fighting each other. And it was just like, man, it's just like we're supposed to protect ourselves from the sailors. And back then, the Pachucos were growing up. We were united as Raza then, but after the sailors and everything went, and we ended up freaking fighting each other.
Yeah, did you?
That I think I feel like it's that the Aztec, the warrior, the Mayan mentality that we have to fight. I don't know, man, but I know in the long run it's just all bad. It's all Satan, and there's so many people die on the streets that they should be here with us today. They should be there with their mom and dads, burying their mom and dads, not mom and dads burying the kids.
Did you
Well,
ever
look
get
at
locked
like
up?
I was like, go ahead,
Paul?
Joe.
Did you ever get locked
Paul.
up?
Yeah, I got locked up. I've been locked up, but see, I only done county time. I think the longest thing I did was a county lid, and that was experience myself too, because to now I'm in there with a bunch of other men. Period. What I mean? And these guys have the same stories, man, and they're just like, wow. And the craziest part too, when I went in there, I went to the old county. I don't know if you guys remember 9500 and stuff like that. I'm talking about the old county, man. Before they had the twin towers and stuff like that, I was just like, wow. And right when I get to 9500, these guys hit me, hey, where you from? And this and that. I was like, what? I'm from Whittier and stuff like that. And they're like, oh, okay, your card's over there. Well, what do you mean my card? What I mean? Yeah, you guys, you have homie from this area, this. Like, hey, those are my enemies, man. I don't talk to them. Well, guess what? Inside we do, brother. Inside here we do. We talk to each other. Like, what? Like, really? And that's what kind of tripped me out. Like, okay, like psychologically, it's like, okay, so out here we're fighting each other, but in here we're united with each other. Okay, like, okay. So I still look at that today as like, okay, so out here, in there, what I mean, we're with each other, but out here we're fighting each other. It's just like, where's the common sense at? Like, and I can't do it by myself. Joe, you can't do it by yourself. Paul, you can't do it by yourself. It's just like we got to make sure that we kind of stay in that same tone. I'm not mocking them, because that's the way we should be united as as Chicanos, Latinos. I mean, as a community. But we're just not, and I don't have the full answer for that. I'm just trying to be logic about it.
Yeah, I understand. Like, you know what, man? I'm 51 and I still don't have the answer for that one either.
Right?
But the only thing I can say is prayer and trying to do like what we're doing here on this channel, like positivity and getting the word out there to teach, the youngsters or whoever, like it's not worth it. You know what I mean? Like this is what Paul went through, I went through, this is what Robert right here went through, and all we could do is just try to put positivity out there. You know what I mean?
Right, right. You know, because you know, if we could represent ourselves back then through the trauma and the hard times and stuff like that, why can't we give that same exposure these days? And it's just like I said, it starts with educating our community first. It's about letting the youngsters, hey, like you know what? Instead of all this gang violence and stuff like that, let's stop the gang violence so the kids can come outside and play. So the kids can go walk to school. So the kids can go to school and educate themselves so they could start taking pride. Everything's in our culture is about pride, right?
Yeah.
Can we agree on that? Oh, Chicano power, Chicano pride, Chicano this. Okay, well let's put our pride down because the Bible says pride comes before a fall, right? You know, let's take the pride down. And you know what's crazy? Because a lot of our Chicano heritage, you know what I mean? There's spiritual aspect. You know, they grew up in the Catholic Church, in the Christian Church. You know what I mean? Let's follow up what the word says. You know, we talk about, hey, your word is everything. Okay, well, let's follow up with that. You know, let's follow up with our word. You know, it just takes one person, you know, just like, hey, you know, how I see Sonny doing his thing, how I see you guys doing your thing. I know Cholo Trucker talks about it. You know, I talk about it. Okay, so, you know, somebody else has to catch, what do we call the vision? So we could lay the foundation, right? And that's what we're trying to do, establish the foundation. I want these little kids to be like I said, before State Park was violence and drugs and all that stuff, man, I was able to stay out to late at night till the street lights came out, man. I was out there at the sandbox all day. You know, we used to get lunches in the weekends. Summertime was lunches. We had carnivals, baseball, everything. We're about to be a community. And now it's just like, man, you know, where did it go? Where did the pride and integrity go?
Yeah, it's all in the video games now, man, in the phones. So
Yeah.
like when you went from okay, your homeboy got killed, your primo got killed, and then you did some county time. So then, what was the next step from there? How old were you when all this went down?
Okay, so after that, you know what I mean? I was like in my mid-20s. It was still dry. It was a dry desert. I felt like Moses, man. I was just going through the desert. Nothing was changing. I got shot a couple more times. Still in drugs. Still, you know what I mean, whining and dining, being conniving. You know what I mean, being the chamuco that I said I was. But in my latter years, I started noticing I was getting tired. I was getting burned out. People, you know what I mean? People were dying. People were getting in there. People were already leaving. They got tired of it. You know, people were in prison now, you know, and they started doing time. And lo and behold, I wasn't there. I just found myself on the streets. So
Yeah.
what happened was that I made peace. So I told my grandmother, like, hey, man, I'm ready to go all out, man. And these cops try to catch me there. I can't see myself doing 25 to life behind a wall. I rather just, you know, hey, go be with the Lord or let judgment come. And you know, my grandma says like, hey, you know God, bro. And she gave me Psalms 22, where it talks about, you know, the things that the enemy, how he comes to destroy and kill and this and that. But then again, you know, God always comes back. And he talks about that he's here to restore you. He's here to help you. He's here to redeem you, that his son paid the price for you. And I was just like, wow. And I remember getting the Bible and I threw it, you know, because, you know, truth hurts, right? You know, the Bible says the truth will set you free. So I threw the Bible and I was like, no, I don't want that. You know, I still had animosity towards my mom. I had anger, bitterness because what she's put me through and seen. Like I'm just going real fast and just breaking the briefs like how the way we want to hear it. But if you really get into my detail, you'll be surprised. And this ain't the same the change from anybody else. Because lo and behold, like I said, I didn't have a father, you know, and I had a lot of anger towards my mom. And that's what my grandma was trying to say, that you need to forgive, you know, thank God to, you know, for our grandfathers and our grandparents, man, you know, it's just like, thank God for mines. But, you know, I saw my mom's like, hey, my grandma, you know, they were going to church and stuff. I say, hey, you know, you need to have forgiveness. And so I went over there and I couldn't see myself, you know, forgiving my mom because I thought like she put me in the situation. But one day I remember I was praying and then God said like, hey, put yourself in her shoes. So imagine your dad died at 18 years old. You were 6 months. Now she's, you know, growing up and has to raise you without your father. How would you deal with that? And I felt my mom's like, wow, like, man, like, oh my God, like, man, she was hurting.
You know what I mean? She was going through a lot. You know what I mean? She was being tortured and tormented. So she was looking for love in all the wrong places. No wonder she was out there doing the drugs. No wonder she was trying to be with other guys, trying to find love in all the wrong places. She was hurt, devastated. The way you felt about your cousin, God showed me, is the way your mom felt. And that's what everybody feels. You know what I mean? It's a trauma. When people lose their kids to gang violence, you know what I mean? Whether it's their nephew, their cousin, you know, whether it's your father and stuff like that, it's a tragedy, man. You know, it really is. The Bible says that the devil comes to kill, steal, and destroy, man. And that was just laid out right there. It's a generational thing. So, you know, lo and behold, I went to go make peace with my mom. And I thought it was that Psalms 22 scripture went, and it was just like, oh, man. And from there, you know, it's been a roller coaster with Jesus. You know, it hasn't been perfect, but hey, you know, it's been more blessing than it was a while back. That's for sure.
So when you told your mom and that, or you forgave her, like, how did that feel? That moment that you said that, you know what I mean?
How the Bible says, it'll set you free. It set me free, you know, because now I have an understanding. Now she understands, whether we have a great relationship or we don't, you know, we have peace. You know what I mean? And that's one thing that a lot of us from the streets, we try to find, is clarity and peace, you know, and understanding. And I found my peace in my heart. Because the Bible says, like, you know, one thing that, you know, that God, and I feel my part, is that you can't enter heaven if you got no peace, man. Forgiveness, straight out. You know what I mean? If you haven't forgiven, I mean, Jesus died on the cross for what? He forgave everybody. You know? So that's my new theory. Is just like, hey, man, let's just bring the community together, find peace amongst yourself, and forgive those who hurt you. You know, straight out.
So then you forgave your mom, and then what happened from there? How did you get out of the barrio?
You know, for some of us, if you've been in the neighborhood for a while, you know, lo and behold, you know, how they say it's blood in, blood out, or this and that. Like, man, if you put enough work and stuff like that, you can walk away. I walked away. You know, and I was just like, man, you guys can't tell me nothing. For one thing, half of them are busted, and for another thing, the other half are dead. So who do I got to answer to? It's like, oh, I'm gone. Like, you know, I'm out of here. So I ended up leaving. You know what I mean? I went to my mom's church. We were there for a while. Met my wife at church. Moved to San Diego. I've been in San Diego a couple of times out there. You know what I mean? It was like a healing. I had to leave to find peace amongst myself, the restoration, you know, the rebuilding and stuff like that. And that's how it worked out. And that's where I'm at right now. You know, I was able to go to college out there, have a beautiful daughter, you know, and now I could be the father, you know. I understand now. I don't have to be the father to the fatherless. I don't have to have that generation. My dad died, he passed away, and I can stay alive and be a blessing to my daughter and be a blessing to those who don't have their fathers. And, you know, telling them my testimony, that, hey, man, you know, I understand you. You know what I mean? We could relate.
Yeah, definitely, man. I totally understand what you're talking about. 100%, man. I'm glad you're able to change your life and get that AA and you know, and find God and change your life and become, you know, a good father and all that, man. That's a real blessing, a real blessing. And I think that's what it takes a real man to be able to do that. You know what I mean? To set down the store and pick up the Bible. That, to me, that's a real man. You know, in my book. Like
Oh, I'm
yeah,
sorry.
no, I was saying, like, to kind of wrap it up, like, you have any last words you want to say? Any final words?
No, man. You know, I mean, well, yeah, you know, I'm just saying, like, you know, to the youth out there, you know, hey, go educate yourself, you know, and I understand, you know, life ain't perfect, and you know, and through hardship, you'll be surprised how, you know, you'll get your answer and stuff in some things, and you know, we don't, you know, it's not necessarily things happen on purpose. That's just the way life is, but you know, you could overcome and overachieve your situations, your demons, your struggles, if you look for help. If you see, the Bible says, ask and you shall receive. Seek. You need to go out there and get it, and knock on the door and it'll be open. It's really bland. It's really pretty simple. So I want to encourage those, you know, to go out there and, you know, I mean, whatever you've been through, you know, if you need to reach out to me or you, they know how to get a hold of you guys. You know, you guys know how to get a hold of me. You know how they say, you know my number, use it, you know? So it's just like, hey, you know, there's help out there, and, you know what I mean? We need to support one each other, love one each other, and if anything, forgive one another.
Yeah, definitely. But you gotta want to change. You gotta, like, be sick and tired of being sick and tired. and when you get to that point and you need somebody to pray with or you have questions, you can get a hold of any of us. Our contacts are down on the bottom. We'll be more than happy to help you out or to be able to talk to you or guide you in the right direction. Any last words, Paul?
Nah, man, just want to say thanks for coming on. And, I met your homeboy Shamu years ago. We're talking 35, 30 years ago. And we're in La Habra. I'll say we're in a place together, right? And it
Right.
was funny. So me and Shamu were both big guys. They took us to the county. They put us in the back of the car. And then what was funny is Shamu, we go through 24 hours and we're in Orange County jail. We go through 24 hours of intake. They give us our jumpsuit. I told them, super big, so mine fit good. Shamu's went up barely past his knees, bro. That guy's a giant, bro. So
Yeah, bro.
so
Yeah.
he's looking at me like, Paul, you want to trade? And I'm like, Charlie, man, I ain't gonna be with that
Charlie.
albino stuff, bro. So he probably won't even remember me, but Shamu, Quiet Village, all you guys Southeast LA, Jimtown, God loves you, man. This guy's a living testimony, man. And we hope that you guys think about the Lord. Not only you guys everywhere, Northern Cal, Washington, Wisconsin, SoCal. We love you guys.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Just want to thank you guys for coming on today and watching, the stuff, Robert's story, Big D. Just want to thank you for coming on and sharing your testimony. And I want to have you on again because I know there's a lot more you can talk about, man. We barely scratched the surface of your story,
Yeah,
but
brother.
I want to thank you for coming on and just, letting people know that it's possible to change. You know what I mean? It's possible to change it as long as you have God in your life and you ask Him for forgiveness and you walk the right walk, man. Everything can come together. You know what I mean? And you can have a beautiful life without living in fear. And man, I just pray that your PTSD will go away in time. You know what I mean? That God will just get rid of that from you and from
I
all of
got
us.
faith, man. I got faith.
Yeah, we gotta have faith. We gotta have faith. But you know what? Sometimes that stuff helps us to keep grounded. You know what I mean? To not forget the stuff we went through, so we can remember, so we don't go back in that direction.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah,
sir. Thank you guys, man. I appreciate you guys, man. I appreciate you, Joe and Paul. You guys are doing a positive thing. Like I said, once again, I appreciate you guys, man. Much love from this side. If you guys need anything, you know where I'm at, man. Thank you guys.
we appreciate you big time. Yeah, we appreciate you too with everybody watching us. You know what I mean? Give us a like, give us a thumbs up, give us a subscribe. Tell everybody in your circle to give us a watch. You know what I mean? Just tell them to watch us once, and if they vibe with us, then they'll vibe with us and they'll subscribe and watch us, and then they'll continue to promote us and get us out there. Just thank you all. God bless every single one of you, and remember, there's redemption for you all. God bless.